Should you borrow for vet school, and should you take out private student loans to attend vet school? We're going to look at a public vet school and a private vet school and take a look at the differences between the costs and how much in private student debt you'd have to borrow to see if it makes sense to do that with the new borrowing rules that are in place after the passage of the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. So we're going to look at NC State for our public vet school example, and we're going to look at UPenn for our private vet school example. Let's dive into the numbers. So we can see that the resident cost of NC State is about $50,000 a year. Resident cost for UPenn is about $93,000 a year. So let's take a look at what that looks like when we put in some actual numbers into the mix. So if I put in UPenn and I say that the UPenn graduate we're talking about is going to make an average income as a veterinarian. So according to our veterinarians that we've surveyed, this is the sample range of salaries in terms of percentiles. So if you're making an average income as a veterinarian, about $145,000 a year, what's that mean for your after tax and after student loan take home pay? So first off, the numbers, you'd have to borrow about $372,000 total to attend UPenn. And if you did that, you'd max out all your federal student loans, and your private student loans, you'd borrow about $43,000 a year in private student loans. Your payments under the RAP plan payment, that's an income-driven payment, would only be applied to your federal student loans. And then in addition to that, you would have private student loan payments to make right here. So you're making those private student loan payments, your balance is falling, but what does it leave you with after everything's deducted? So that's your, first of all, your pre-tax income. After-tax income is in this column, and then income after taxes and student loan payments is listed there at about $65,000 of take home. Compare that to a graduate degree or an undergrad degree, bachelor's degree, where you come out earning about $80,000 a year after taxes. It's about $65,000. You're earning pretty much the same amount of money, and that's if you're making $140-something thousand a year as a veterinarian, which is an average income. That's average after a few years of practicing, honestly. So most likely you would probably be earning less than that coming out if you're a typical veterinarian, and that would put you actually earning less money than you would make with just a bachelor's degree. In fact, if you think about $50,000 of take-home pay, that might not be enough to even live a comfortable lifestyle. So going to the high-cost private university, yeah, you might eventually get to the point where you're earning an average income or even a 75th percentile income as a veterinarian. But in general, as a financial decision, it's probably not a good financial decision unless your only path that you've ever wanted to go down as a veterinarian and you get in, and that's your only option. In that case, it's probably a viable path to go to the high-cost private university and borrow all of it, but it is a risky path. Now, if we compare that to a public school, the math gets a lot more forgiving. So let's just say you go to NC State, you actually will need to borrow almost no private student loans, basically, because the federal borrowing limit is about $50,000. And your RAP plan payment will eventually pay off the whole balance. So you won't get anything in forgiveness, but you will eventually pay off the balance with paying 10% of your income. You won't have to worry about the private student loans. And if your income is average, your after-tax income is about 110, after student loans is about 95. That is comfortably more than your bachelor's degree only after-tax income of 65. It's about 30K of after-tax income more. It's about 50% more. Now, even if you start off earning in the 25th percentile range of income, which is about 116,000, or even the 10th percentile, at the 10th percentile, you're earning really a pretty low income compared to what most veterinarians earn. And you are coming out of school after taxes and student loan payments, you are pretty much breaking even compared to just getting that high-paying bachelor's degree, but with more job stability and probably more job satisfaction than if you just stopped at a bachelor's degree. Most people, though, are going to be earning a little bit more than that, and you can see that compared to a bachelor's degree, a veterinarian who attends a public university is making more after-tax take-home pay after considering student loan payments, and then when the student loans are gone, eventually, you start earning substantially more. After those student loan payments go away, you start bringing in about $80,000 or so more in take-home pay after considering taxes and student loan payments, because the student loans are gone. That money now gets to be just in your pocket. Now, to be fair, that would be an extended period of time. You're talking 20-something years. But if you think about most veterinarians that go to school in their early 20s, come out in their mid-20s, many veterinarians will have a 30 to 35-year working career. So that's what we maybe would call an excellent financial decision compared to just stopping at a bachelor's degree, coming out, going to a public vet school, and making an average income. Now, if you want to be a practice owner as a veterinarian, that's even better, but you don't have to. You can make a good financial choice just by keeping your private student loan borrowing as a veterinarian to a minimum, and trying to attend the lowest cost school that you get into. And again, if your only option is private vet school, um, or bust, and that's the only choice you have, could you be worse off than if you didn't go? The answer is yes, pretty easily. But if that is the cost of you achieving your dream of being a veterinarian, will it eventually work out? Yes, I think it will. But you would probably want to get really creative. You would probably want that private student loan balance to be minimized as much as humanly possible. You'd probably want to live with roommates while you're in school to limit borrowing for living expenses. You'd probably want to live as cheaply as possible in terms of food. And so, these are all things to think about, right? When you pursue your vet school education, you definitely want to minimize private student loan borrowing. And if you need help figuring out how to borrow for vet school, you want to talk about it, you want to strategize about it, we would love to help you at Student Loan Planner. Comment away or reach out to us from our website, studentloanplanner.com. We would love to make you a custom plan if you want one. Good luck on your vet school journey, and thank you for watching.